Hello,
Hey, dude.
hello. So it's been 1 week after Costa Blanca Bike Race has finished, and in front of our screens we have Jake, ex-pro cyclist from Wales. Maybe we can start from there, how you're feeling, Jake, after the Costa Blanca Bike Race, and then I will allow you to introduce yourself as well.
Okay, I feel pretty good. Like, I feel happy to have done it. It went really well, but I'm pretty tired. But that was more the drive home from Girona all the way back home in one go. 20 hours driving, just no stop. Well, we stopped to go to the toilet and stuff, but it's just like all in one go. So it's taken like 48 hours to get over the drive, to be honest.
But just a good refresh after the race. So you are kind of now fully reloaded. And that's why
Yeah, I would
we
say so.
got here
Yeah.
at this point to do race analysis, because it kind of takes a bit of a while to settle things down in your mind. Because if we would do it like at the same day after a finish, it would look one way. But after some time goes by and we rewind the same things, you can have more objective perspective of what happened, I guess.
Yeah, it helps that you've recorded all the stages, because you can look back and it reminds you of stuff. I actually often tell people I work with that as soon as you've done a race, you should write some notes, because it's fresh in your mind, and actually you have still the emotion of the race running through. So often you get that, you can capture that feeling that you had in the race just in a note. So it's like whether you were really disappointed or really happy or angry or upset, whatever it was, you can note down why. Because afterwards, like now, if we look back, you kind of look back on it with rose-tinted glasses. Does that, you heard that before?
Yeah. So
Where,
it's
where
very
everything becomes a bit less emotional, and you can kind of, I don't know, you come at it from a much more like relaxed point of view, which often isn't the case when you're racing, because when you race, you aren't relaxed.
It's funny that you mentioned this, because in the past I've been creating race analysis after every single race, and it was like the race finishes on the weekend, then next few days I prepare race analysis, and it's kind of, most of the time it's been emotional roller coaster where I describe exactly what happened in the race, I analyze certain situations, etc. But I stopped doing that because it was overwhelming. It took just too much of my time, and in general, then you spend so much time, you expect some return, like outside return, but then the views are not going there. It's a bit daunting, but at the same time, I realized at some point that those race analyses were, in one case, for hours to look at the race, but in the other, exactly as mentioned, it was my reflection. And once I stopped doing those race analysis, it was not the same. Like, you don't have that lesson learned, taken and written and spoken, and it's very good thing to do those, any kind of analysis of event happened, because that kind of helps you to improve your learning curve over the time. And if you don't do that, it's just another race in the calendar, and it's basically settles down, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I agree. Like, you know, if you want to get better, and if you take it, you know, if you're serious about the race and serious about racing, and you have more ambitions afterwards, then it's the most important thing you can do, because, you know, cycling is a funny sport in that you spend so much time training, which isn't in the race like environment. We do all of our training outside the race environment. And so you have to really maximize the time you have in that race environment to like get everything you want from it out. Unlike other sports where, like, you know, even football or basketball, like, yes, you're not under the pressure of necessarily playing, but in basketball you might play 100 times a year, right? Whereas, and you're training with your group, which is the most important thing. Whereas cycling, it's like you train for fitness and skills, I guess, on a mountain bike, but only in the race do you do everything at full speed. And like, you're getting tired and people are going around you, which never happens when you're training. You never train with 200 other people.
So with that being said, Jake, who are you and why you decided to participate in Costa Blanca Bike Race for the second time in a row?
Okay, yeah, good question. It's a good question, especially when you hear the story about the first. So I raced on the road for many, many years. And I'm a cycling coach that's my job. So I've always been involved in cycling, but just road cycling. And then when I finished, due to like life circumstances and stuff, I was in a situation where I didn't have a road bike. So I started mountain biking, even though I'd like never really done it. I'd only ever road ride. Really liked it, but I was really bad. But I liked it. And I was like, I'm quite strong, but I had no skills. And then someone told me about this race, that it was a really good fun race, and it was a stage race. And I was like, I'm good at stage racing because that's what I did on the road. And that's where my strengths were. So I was like, I'll go do that. How hard can it be? It must be good fun. And then turned up last year, went to like the race preview, the first descent, and was like, man, I've made such a mistake. What am I doing here? Like, this is way beyond me.
Yeah, to add a disclaimer, that first descent was Kalpes downhill to Minkso in the past segment. So those who are familiar with the race, they can get a sense where you went on your first recon of the race course.
And that was like my first recon, but that was like my first ever proper
trail-like
race technical line. And so I was just like, we must walk this. This must be wrong. Like, this can't be the race. And then it was the race, and fuck. The first stage I got through, the second stage I did okay, and then the third stage I had a really bad crash and broke my hand. And I don't know whether I should tell people this because it's probably a bit irresponsible, but I carried on and I actually finished with a broken hand.
Yeah, but the broken hand was some part of the finger, or what part that was?
It was the scaphoid.
Uh-huh.
So it is quite crucial because I couldn't really hold the
grip
or brake, right? So I had to walk pretty much everything that was technical, and then I would just ride the other bits. I mean, it was stupid to carry on, but I was just determined to finish. And so I was like, I've got to come back this year because, I didn't get to fully like push my limit. Like, my dad was there, who was here this year as well, and like he'd come all the way out, and I felt responsible to finish. Like, I couldn't stop, even though he was like, you can't carry on, we need to go to the hospital. I was like, no, we've got to finish. So it was good to come back this year and like actually like find out what I was capable of, which was really good.
If we look at it from the past year's experience and this year's experience, in that meantime, did you did any MTB races or just rode in Wales? What was your structure?
To be honest, I've stopped doing any road racing. Well, I say I stopped. I actually probably did road race a lot last year, but I've stopped taking it seriously. Like, that's not my focus anymore. My own personal ambition is all mountain biking now because it's different. So, I reached quite a high level road riding, and unless I train full time, I can't be at that level anymore. So it's kind of not as fun. You know what I mean? Like, I have fun racing and like being with my mates and going and seeing seeing the same faces at races and kind of having a laugh. It's nice, but it's not the same level of like commitment. Whereas the mountain biking, literally every time I go out, you get that like sense of improving and accomplishment. And as you'll probably work out from this conversation, I'm quite obsessive.
But that's the case when you are kind of new in the topic, like in the mountain bikes in this specific case. And then you like it so much, you get accustomed to that endorphins who comes into your bloodstream because of you do the things which you a few weeks ago were not able to. And that's like, for example, then we did some recons for those who haven't knew that yet. With Jake, we did few recons of the race courses this year. There were places which you were not able to ride in your previous stakes, but once you tried them a lot of times on your own, and then we came together, by doing the same thing again and again, you just get better. And that's the thing which mountain bike brings to probably person's development who wants to learn something new and just improve their skills.
Yeah, definitely. And like, I've been riding a bike for, I don't know, pretty much my whole life, right? And but a road bike, and it's so different. Riding a mountain bike is it's so much more technical. I mean, that's obvious, but it is, and it's like you learning all those skills every time you try it, which is the biggest thing. And then obviously taking it to the trail, and then being relaxed enough to like actually ride the trails comes with practice and doing it again and again and again.
So you can actually jump into stage 1.
Here.
I would say that this year stage 1 was a lot better suited for road cyclists than it was last year, because last year we went immediately on the uphill, which was hard, but then was the trail, and that mixed up things a bit. This year there were like 15 kilometers pushing without pretty much no trails. Well, there were some, but they were minor. So your take, probably one thing which we forgot: you are riding with hardtail.
Yes,
which is crucial thing in this instance, but let's just leave it for the later. And what was your initial plan for stage 1 on this race?
Yeah, so I knew that essentially the first 20k was going to be like it suits my lack of technical ability and my strong legs. So I knew that I could just ride really hard and get as far up the group as possible, because I knew that the middle bit was going to be really challenging. Like, we'd done that bit in recon, and man, it was like, it's just so bumpy, especially with the hardtail. You just like struggle to keep any momentum.
I will share with you the flyby. So it's flyby of stage 1, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's in miles, but nonetheless, the first part was pretty much all the time going up. Here was the longest climb of the day, and we can see that you already been like 4 minutes ahead.
Yeah.
So that's...
I knew that I basically went, my biggest hour power for the whole week was stage 1 in the first hour.
It's like 17 kilometers or so, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, but I really paid for it later. So after the first big descent was like so bumpy, and that just like blew me to pieces. And then, I mean, I struggled then. And you'll see, like, if you compare me and you, I'm like 4 or 5 minutes ahead, and then you just bring it back all the rest of the stage.
Yep. And actually, you almost lost half of your time immediately on that rocky descent, which was quite nasty.
Yeah, I think I was going to say, I actually struggled. One of the big things I struggled with was kind of hitting the trails with speed, because we'd done everything at like half speed, right? All of our recons, we were like really taking it easy. We were like riding bits again. We weren't exactly pushing the limit. We were going pretty slow. And I think I made a mistake of then not riding any trails fast before we did the race, because I actually almost crashed on the very first easy trail, just because my brain wasn't switched on to like suddenly like race speed on the trail. And that knocked my confidence, so that when we hit the rocky bit, the main descent, I was just like, I told you, I thought my torque was locked
even
down.
the full suspension, it felt like this. So I can just imagine how it was on hardtail. But actually, I have a very good point to add here, is that the way we rode in recons, for you, it looked like, well, you said that on your own, that it's pretty much close to your race speed, because you thought that it's your race speed. Like, you're already not too much confident going even further. But during the climbs, you got to the guys who are really fast. Like, you stayed with most of the time front groups on the climbs. And then once everyone around you go fast, you have no other option. Either you will go off the bike and, well, allow the whole group which you overtook or stay together on the climb, and then you just continue going at pretty much their speed with some sacrifices for sure, and that's where the eyes becomes more and more open because you have to look at every stone and you are going like 1.5 times faster probably than you expected you are going to. So that was probably also the reason.
Definitely. And I actually found like that first stage, that was a shock. But then actually, rather than you taking in all the stones and rocks and lines, you end up just like, because you have so much speed and momentum, you end up flowing over the stuff with way more like flow, I guess. But that first stage, I didn't have the confidence to do it. But then I found by stage 2, the next time I did it, and the next time I hit the even harder descent, like the even longer, rockier one, even though I'm on a hardtail, I was actually like, I flew down that. I mean, we'll go into that later when we look at stage 2, but if you compare that first...
Stage 3, I guess, because stage 2 was time trial.
Stage 3. If you compare the first descent on stage 1 and the main descent on stage 3, they were very similar in their like terrain, but I was like, I think I only lost a minute to the podium guys, whereas I lost maybe 7 minutes on stage 1.
And what tires have you eventually ended up using? Because on the Recons you've been with the Vittorias, I guess.
Yeah,
but now you had Maxis or which tires?
Recon Race.
2.4s.
Yeah, and I run them pretty low. Like I have the inserts, and then I was running them. My front was like 0.8, like 0.8, and the rear was like 1 bar, so it's quite low.
How did you compare Vittorias versus Maxis in this specific terrain? Because you had Barzo and
the Barzo it's the worst. I mean, it's like to be fair, on stage 4 when it rained, it would have probably been pretty good. But it's a good tire for here in Wales, like where I live,
where it's muddy
and even in the summer, like it's still soft mud. So it's a good tire for here, but there it just loses grip. Just you're riding along and then suddenly just boom, it's gone.
So Maxis turned out to be a really good selection, right?
Yeah,
because of lower tread pattern, probably.
It's a faster tire in the middle, and then it's got like it's quite grippy on the edges,
holding the side. Yeah, and probably also in comparison, Barzo is more like round.
Yeah.
In terms if we look at the tire from front, it's more round, where Maxis is flat and then round corners a bit. So that's also what holds in place, because I used Maxis in Roc d'Azur last year, and I changed the front and changed the Maxis, and it was day and night experience. So yeah, if someone's racing in hard packed, considering lower tires tread pattern is something good to know if it's dry and if it's hard packed. But at the start of multiple days, I always look around and see what tires people ride. And you can see like literally every type of tire, from Thunderbirds, which has pretty much no tread at all, to tires which, I don't know, Enduro riders might ride. So I can already see that those guys with chunky rubber, which usually stand it at the end of the gates, they are losing like a lot of time just because of the wrong tires selection. But maybe those tires adds confidence for them on the downhills, and that's kind of maybe the reason why they choose those two.
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, all the guys that were, pretty much everyone in, I'd say, the top 20% of the race was running the Pirellis.
Funny thing, but those Pirellis were very hard to find in Calpes region, so maybe that's the reason they just sold out them.
Yeah, I think so.
What else did you remember from stage 1?
Yeah, so the other big thing on stage 1, and it's a theme for me all week, was nutrition. So I know that, like, you know, essentially it's like a threshold effort, right? Every day you're doing like 3 hours of threshold. So you're burning through you basically need to eat and drink as much as you can the whole time, but it can be difficult. It's not like on the road where you kind of can do it whenever you like. Like, you've obviously got to be able to do it not on the crazy descents. Like, you need to make sure you eat and drink everywhere else. So that was a big thing for me. And stage 1, I think I underfueled a bit. So I ended up losing a gel, and also I forgot to put salt in my bottles, and I did cramp by the end. And then I fixed that for the rest of the race, and I never bulked, I never cramped again.
How many carbs? Many carbs do you use in an hour? Or here it's 90. 90.
Yeah. I mean, so I was having. Like I say, my dad was there with the bottles, and like, he was really good. Like, he went to every tech zone and was there on time, had the bottles. So I had at least 3 bottles, the backpack, which had more water in it sometimes, and then like 3 gels an hour.
Was it useful carrying the backpack?
I prefer it there because, like, you know, you've got like your spares and stuff, but it's on your back. It feels more comfortable than
than on the bike or somewhere else.
Yeah, and maybe I'm carrying like slightly too much, but it's like, I don't know. Better to have it if you have a problem than not, right? A couple of times someone held out the plastic bottles of water, and so I'd have like a quick drink and then basically just pour it over my legs or my back just to like cool myself down a bit, because obviously being from Wales, even 20 degrees is hot.
I get that because from Lithuania it's pretty much same thing.
So I was like, I just wanted to keep cool, especially on some of those long climbs where there's no breeze and in the sun. You know, it was hot. I ended up easing off because I was in such a fast group that I was looking down and we were doing like 350 watts, and I was just thinking, this is a bit too hard, and I didn't want to go into that first proper off-road section with my heart rate at like 170 because I knew I just wouldn't be able to ride through it. So I actually ended up easing off and letting the group go that I was with, which I think was a good decision. And then another group, and I ended up riding the last bit with another group that was so I actually ended up easing off a bit on that climb, to be honest.
Have you managed to do those punchy, rocky sections in the top of the climb?
No, so that whole section I really struggled, which I think because I was like, A, I was probably went too deep, and B, I just wasn't used to hitting it at the speed that we hit it, and then I got like flustered because it was the first time doing it, so I was like a bit like, I lost confidence. And also, do you remember there was that big crash at the beginning? Maybe you didn't see it. On that first technical, really steep bit.
Yeah, I saw while driving through that it seemed that 2 bikes are laying on the ground, if you talk about that case.
Yeah,
But there was only one guy, and I was like, what's happening? But later I rewind the footage and I saw that it was Paxi. I don't know how properly pronounce his name, but he broken his not collarbone, but
shoulder,
scapula, or how that bone is called. So basically it's serious injury, and probably it could have been avoided because that location was really simple if we look at the grand scheme of things of how trails looks like here.
I don't know, it was simple, but it was steep and it was really loose. And to have it that early in the race when everyone is like super fired up, and they've all gone mental up the first climb, like they've all gone crazy fast, and then they're hitting that bit basically off. It was pretty much straight away after that first long road climb. And it was still quite a big group because everyone's together. Like, it didn't really string out that much. It strung out, but it didn't really break up. So it happened like maybe, I don't know, 20 riders in front of me. I didn't see it happen, but it was kind of...
It was close.
Heard it. Yeah, you heard it happen, and then I saw the aftermath, and I was like, whoa. That kind of got in my head a bit for that first one, because the first thing I thought about was like, oh, I don't want to crash again. I don't want to break anything again. So that kind of knocked my confidence for the first main descent and the first rocky bit. But then once I got off that, I was like, I'm still alive. I'm okay. This was fine. And then it wasn't so bad.
And actually, in the middle of a stage, well, maybe towards the second part, there was also a bit rocky and loose descent. But I guess that didn't cause any problems for you, considering that the previous were significantly easier.
No, not really. I mean, the only bit that caused me problems was, it was the first, so there was a rocky bit that you climb up, and then there was like a little descent, and then there was like suddenly a little punchy rocky bit. Do you remember that?
Yeah, but you are talking here about that after the top, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That was the only bit on the whole day that caused me the most problems. I lost like 7-8 minutes in that whole section.
You've been riding a bit slower towards the end of the trail, of the course. And did you prepare yourself for the last descent of the day? How was your feeling knowing where you are going to in the last few kilometers of the race?
Yeah, kind of. I knew that I had eased it up, but like I say, I kind of started cramping. I've not got my fueling right, so I was struggling anyway. I was still trying to ride pretty hard on the climbs, but I was with the lady who was the Swedish national champ.
Yeah, Teresa Anderson, or
not her, the other Swedish lady. Yeah, and I think she was struggling that day as well. So she wasn't going so crazy on the descent. So it was actually quite a good wheel to follow.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, that's it. It was quite a good wheel to follow. So when we hit that final, was it Timingso? What's that one called?
It's Calpe is downhill now. The reason why it's not Timingso is that Timingso ending turns to the right. And in this stage, we got down. You know where hike trail ends? We turn to the left. Yeah. And Timingso is to the right. So that's the difference why that segment is not being catched.
Okay. But we've ridden that so many times. Like, I mean, I must have done that 15 times in the December-January period. So I actually was quite looking forward to it. And loads of lines had opened up. I don't know if you'd ridden them, but
I haven't took that one which you are referring to. I was just not sure whether I should do it or not, and then you are not sure, you are not doing things in Costa Blanca.
Yeah, but in my head I was just like, I just want to get down as quick as possible, so I'm just going to go in a straight line.
I kind of struggled in one area in the first bit of that trail where I know that I can ride all of those parts without getting off the bike, but at some point I got into one corner where it was very rocky and I started bouncing, and I realized that it's not going to end well, so I unclipped one leg and then successfully went down, and then it was okay. But after, I don't know, quite a lot of riders went through that trail, it changed drastically. It became loose in one switchback. I turn and there's a stone in the center looking at me, which shouldn't be there, but because someone moved it out of somewhere, it just rolled over. And so such surprises always catch you and you have to accommodate. And then it's in the line where you expect it to go. It can caught you a bit off guard. And then it's either you will succeed to pass it or not necessarily.
Yeah, I agree. And it was okay. I mean, I think it was actually quite good at the end of the day because you were tired hitting it, so you weren't like, I don't know. For me, it was like I could relax more because you'd spent all day riding the trails. So it was like, okay, fine, just get down this one. It'll be okay.
That's very funny. That's very funny because for me it's opposite. Because I know that I'm coming there already tired. And once I know that I'm tired and I can see that the trail changed drastically, I don't know what to expect anymore from this trail. So my wish was just to successfully go down without any issues, and actually I stopped but dabbed to the ground a few times. But remember that part where once you finish that trail you go up and there's a steep section which we tried to do, like I did 5 times when we did the recon, and in some instances I was quite successful to go at stop a bit, but not that last part. In race, I stopped like the lowest ever, which I managed to do because it was so slippery that the wheel just skid, and I don't want to roll over that not cliff, but quite steep section on the right. So I just walked, and on that part, cramps started for me as well. So I guess cramps usually, what I notice is what happens in the first day because you push so hard. And then it's first day, you maybe miss some meal, maybe miss some drink, and that's where it backfires at you towards the end of the stage.
Cramp can be so many things. It's just like you've gone too hard too early and your muscles are overly fatigued. Generally you won't cramp because of lack of nutrition, like carbohydrate or glycogen. You cramp because of salts and and it was hotter. That was the hottest day as well, I thought. So you sweated more. So generally, But
so was you happy then you saw my helmet coming from the back towards the end of the stage?
Was I happy? I was. So I expected you to come past me much, much earlier. Like, I thought you were going to come past me kind of halfway through the stage. So I did spend the second half of the stage always having a little look behind to see where you were. And the thing was, by that point, I figured once I got off that last descent, well, I'm back. Like, no one's going to catch me now because it's so narrow and it's on the pavement. So there's only so fast you can go. So I wasn't expecting you when I turned around. So there was actually this little bit of disappointment that, it has caught me now. I think it would have been less disappointing if you'd have caught me like
before the trail or before the end trail or something like that. Yeah, because I saw you and I waved, and then you start then you see Rody going down the handlebar. You know that he is going to push, and I'm like, I shouldn't have waved him.
No.
And then,
I was waiting for the helmet. The helmet was distinctive, so as soon as I saw, even when you waved, I knew it was you. I was like, damn it.
Yeah, but thankfully we reached the first stage finish successfully.
You made the mistake of saying, do you want to sprint?
And
do you want to have a sprint?
Yeah.
And I was going to sprint anyway, but then because you said it, I was like, yes.
But you didn't say anything, or did you?
No, I don't think I did. I just started sprinting. And the way, because you were on my right, I knew that, it kind of comes in on the inside. Like, it was a left-hand turn. So I was like, I'm in the perfect position as well. I can just drift wide. It was like the classic road. I push you into the barriers.
That's exactly the thing which we watched the ending with Nicky, and he said, Rody, he did it for you.
As soon as you said it, I was like, yes, I do. I'm on the right side. Like, you're not getting past. I'm just going to push you out there.
So that was pretty much how I saw it coming as well. At the same time, I thought it's pretty much a few seconds here and there, so no point of trying to prove something where you already proved on the stage one that you are going serious in this race. Actually, it's interesting that you finished 1 second ahead of me. That allowed you to start behind me and chase me on the time trial.
Let's go!
Hey guys, thanks for support.
But
that actually made a big difference because it gave me a carrot. I don't want to sound, I don't want to sound arrogant, but I knew I'd catch you.
Absolutely, I knew that as well.
I wanted to try and catch you before the climb so that you could essentially tow me through the single track bit, because I was a bit I don't know, I might lose time there.
But you actually were very fast there as well.
I was, so I wanted to talk about this because I watched yours back, and your, some of the lines you took just were
Yeah,
bad.
especially on like before we entered the single track, where was like the turn to the right on the tarmac, and I was a bit skeptical because I saw in some corners loose stones, and I added a bit more air to the time trial, and I felt that the bike is like. So for that reason, I kind of stayed a bit low on speed, and yeah, entering into some corners, yeah, I also saw them, and then like, oh my Jesus. But once you overtook me, you know, when someone is in front, you're following him kind of blindly. Not blindly,
Yeah.
but your body just follows. And
Yeah.
there were a few places where you went successfully, while I went a bit wide on the left. And that was just a fraction of a second, and the gap already like increased in two ditches. The gap increased like poof poof, and then
Yeah.
it's probably very hard to catch. But then it started rocky climb after those single tracks. I kind of expected that I might try to close the gap on that one, but I've been riding so stupidly there. You know, when your heart rate is already at the higher end and you go like horse, straight, without thinking,
Yeah.
without looking for a better line. That was exactly the feeling how I felt in that area. And I can see that you and that guy with yellow jersey just escaping me. Like, literally, I can see it. And then I realized that, all right, so my time is now my time.
Yeah. I think it was a good decision not to try and close the gap, though. I think on a time trial like that, as soon as you start going into the red, it's so difficult to not then to back off. You'll lose time backing off because then you need to then, you know, you can't back off. You'll lose time, and then once you get to the climb, you can't back off anyway.
Yeah,
You've got to ride, you know. And if you've kind of gone too hard too soon, you're gonna struggle.
So that was
The
exactly.
steeper it gets, the more time you're going to lose.
That was exactly the feeling that I knew what's incoming, and then I let it off a bit. But that wasn't a good decision either, I think, because it was, once we turned, it was headwind, and I could see you too escaping from me like in a flash. It was happening very fast, so I was like, I could have tried to be in pain a bit more longer. But that was just a moment, and it happened really fast, actually. You are running 36 chainring?
Yeah.
And how did you
think,
felt it? How did you felt it on that steepest section? Because I would have walked there with 36.
Honestly, I was like, I didn't even go in my smallest gear at the back.
Really?
Yeah, I was like 4 down the block, like 1, 2, 3, 4 down the block.
On the steepest even?
Yeah.
Crazy. So you like low cadence, or you kept cadence?
Yeah, I kind of like low cadence, and I went, basically, rather than changing gear, I just get out the saddle when I'm climbing if it's really steep, and then I can just like force it over the top. But I did actually make a bit of a mistake because I forgot that there's like a second step to the climb. So I went really hard to keep the gear going on that final ramp, and then you kind of flatten off, and there was a guy with the boombox there playing music, and it kind of goes around the corner, and then I saw my dad and the next bit of climb, and I was just like, damn.
But that's actually very interesting, because usually when I do climbing, I do it very badly, actually. And let's say I move the chain towards the smallest cog, like 3 or 4 from the biggest one. I climb it standing, and once I already tire it, I just, while already going into the saddle, I just smash to the biggest cog and then coast down. So that way I lose momentum, and basically I only get faster, not faster, but further only during the time of standing. And once I get into the saddle, I'm like, for a moment, I'm almost stopping, you know what I'm saying? And that's. Yeah,
that's that. Like, you see people do that a lot, even on a road bike, and it's it is like such a waste of effort.
Yeah.
You know, whereas so you've got to be able to stand up and sit down with, you know, keeping momentum.
Yeah.
The guy Contador, do you remember Contador now? Alberto Contador.
Yeah, I remember, and I have a story for you about it as well. But go for it.
So he was like the king of riding out and in and out of the saddle. And you see, like, if you go on YouTube and watch him ride, like watch his pedal style, like he's always like up down. But he uses it as like, because he's using his body weight, he actually gains momentum. And then as he sits down, he's still able to like, because he's again using his body weight to like almost sit down on the pedal. Like he's not ever stalling. He actually turns it into attack. Like he'll attack. Every time he stands up or sits down, it's like he's attacking the group. And eventually the group just cracks and can't stay with him.
Nice. So that's something to learn from the roadies, you see. So apparently roadies has some tips who can be applied in the mountain bike as well.
I'd say so, especially for something like that, the time trials.
Yeah, so the thing about Contador, so during the recon, we rode through the house and you said that here's Contador's house.
Yeah.
You said that, like you...
Well, I didn't mean it was his particular house. It just says, it's like got a sign that says Casa Contador.
But what do you think that sign means? That someone's surname is Contador or what?
I don't know.
Because
like maybe they're just a big fan and they name the house after
that's
him.
the thing. I think that it's something about the communications or water supply or something, because in our city I've been walking and those plates, metallic ones, on every of those it's written Contador. So probably Contador means something. I haven't translated, actually. I will do it now. And I was, wait a second. Is everyone's Contadors there? So I assume Contador. Let's see what...
He is like a national hero, so it could just be that everyone loves him.
Oh my God, you'll laugh so hard once I tell you that.
I think my...
Contador means counter. That means that behind those doors, there are counters for water, electricity, etc.
Okay, so the gases, right?
Yeah, gases as well. So that's what Contador means. But it's a good thing I at least figure out what Contador means and what it is. Yeah, so you said that you have some numbers from stages. So maybe you have some from time trial as well.
As in the differences in times?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So the first bit, the time trial only split into two, right? I split into the bit which was from the beginning, after you got out of the village, into hitting the bottom of the climb. So I did the first bit in 23 minutes, 31 seconds. Up to from the village to the climb, basically.
To
you did it in
climb.
24 minutes 50. And then the podium, so like roughly the average of the three guys that were on the podium did it in 23 minutes. So, and I lost all 30 seconds on the, like, you know, there's a punchy little climb after the beach. You kind of come out
That part is actually the worst after the main climb.
You rode it pretty hard though. I remember I came around the corner and I could see you, and you were only maybe 150 meters ahead. And I was thinking, I'll catch you by the top. And I didn't really close the gap that much.
Yeah, I knew that I don't like it. So I just wanted to get on top as fast as possible, because I know that it's just takes a lot of effort.
And then the second thing is the climb itself. So I did it in 14 minutes 10. You did it in 15 minutes 50. And the podium did it in 13 minutes 10. So
you lost 1 minute and a bit on the main climb.
Yeah, well, a minute. It was like a minute exactly. And I basically lost it all in the steep section. And I actually gained time back. So looking at the times, I was actually quicker than the podium once you got off the climb. And then it was like that false flat down and then into the climb. I actually gained time back there. But my summary notes for the time trial were pretty short. It was like I don't really have anything to add because it was just good.
It was just good and that's it?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't really go. I don't think I could have gone any quicker. I paced it pretty well.
You catched me right after the top of the climb here. Then the single tracks you've been behind, then you've been in front, and then once that's funny that once that rocky section started, you just do bye bye. So yeah, I couldn't keep it up. What was your tire pressure for the time trial?
I put like 1.1 in the front and like 1.3 in the back.
So it's not that much because I added 1.4 and 1.5, but considering it was also with inserts, it was a bit bouncy, but I will probably create some other video about the use of inserts because I think that the only good reason they are good is just to save your rims from unexpected hits. Other than that, I believe that they slow you down. unless
but
it's a matter,
point, isn't it? They slow you down. They slow you down unless you have a problem, and then they save you.
Yeah, but looking at like my past experiences, rarely there were any problems. Like the only thing you need to make sure is to keep correct the tire's pressure, basically, so that even when you hit something, it won't hit into the rim. Well, that's what I think it could be it. It felt like the tires are blunt, like they are not responsive enough, and even sometimes, even though I've been running 1.1 in the front and 1.25 at the rear, every hit into the rock felt like it responses back to me. Like, let's say I go the front wheel into the rock, and instead of just taking that hit, just swallowing it, it felt always like it returns back at me. And it has nothing to do with the suspension setup, but I am pretty much sure that it has to do with insert. But I was not confident enough to remove the insert from the front. Because usually people, there is also the thing that they run inserts at the rear, where in the front they kind of don't add the insert. But because in front I had Dukes, I didn't want to risk smash it because I already got used to like hitting everything straight and that's it. So I don't know, I might try to ride some segment here while I'm still in Spain without the insert in front.
Try running even lower pressure.
Or maybe that, yeah.
Because I don't know, I did, like, you ever done cyclocross?
No, never.
So you run really low pressures in cyclocross, like really low, like basically the tires are flat. And I hate the feeling when the rim starts to roll because it feels momentarily like you're about to lose control and that the bike's about to like dip underneath you. And so with the tire inserts, it gives more stability to the tire when you run the lower pressure, so it doesn't like roll, it doesn't like lose its shape. And I think, I mean, if I was descending some of those technical descents and you're kind of turning and it feels like the rim is going to roll off, I would be like, I couldn't deal with that.
That's funny because
it gives more confidence that the rim is that the tire itself is like holding its shape.
Yeah, it makes sense. But what's funny is that even though I've been riding 1.1 in front, looking at the tire, like, you know, when you can see how it deforms when rolling on the tarmac, for example, it's very easy to see whether it's squeezed, whether it's not. And I'm looking around, looking at our tires, because I had plenty of time. I'm slow in the climbs. I can look around, see how everyone's passing through me. And it feels like everyone is running significantly higher tire pressure, because I can see that there's tire, like, especially it's good to see when you are riding from the back and you can see whether the rear tire is at least squeezed a bit or not at all. So the way I looked at the others, it felt like I am the fatty boy here, or I don't know. It just felt like majority of people been riding higher tire pressures even then, looking at me, what I used, even the insert, and I don't know, if I lower down the pressure even more, then I would just lose a lot on rolling. Can it be it?
I don't know. I don't think so, because when you look at, like, stage 3 is a good example, like that last 10, 15 kilometers, which so much of it was on tarmac and downhill. I wouldn't say I was pushing like super hard. I was giving whatever I had left, but I wasn't like doing crazy watts, and I was going significantly quicker than a lot of people around me, and my tire pressures were low, right? So,
you know what? You have very good aerodynamics on the bike. I mean, your posture on the bike, on those like flat or fast sections, you bend so much that you increase your aerodynamics significantly, and that also can be beneficial. But trying different tire pressures, something which I am very keen to do. And maybe I will apologize for inserts in the future. At least for now, I don't. And actually, if I am going to stay in this Calpes region for longer, maybe I will remove the insert and go into the Calpes downhill just to see how it feels.
Yeah, see what it's like.
Yeah, because I kind of feel that it might be better, but I'm not exactly sure. How was your plan for stage 3?
I was I felt confident, but I was also nervous because I knew that first descent was crazy. And we'd done that. That was the one that like kept me up at night. Because I mean, I remember doing it last year and just being like, there's no way I'll ever be able to ride this, like ever. And then we did most of it. I mean, I know we did it like section by section coming down, but I rode every section. And that was a big confidence boost.
To add here is that once we hit that trail in the con, Jake said that I'm not going to do this part, the one which was like this.
Yeah.
And then after a few tries, you just roll it. That's how confidence builds. You don't build confidence overnight. You build confidence by practice. And by practicing, practice very most often, just redoing the same things again and again, trying to improve, etc. My take on this topic is that that's how you should come to the technical races. If they are technical, it's the same thing like you go to XCO race without checking the race course. I mean, you will survive. Most likely in some cases you will either have to risk or you will just walk. Seeing the queues on that downhill made me figure that there are a lot of people who didn't even did like nothing. They just came from to open the season in a high note, came to the race to annoy others for not being prepared. That's how I could introduce that.
Even at the front of the race, people were, it wasn't a queue, but like guys were like scooting down, you know? They had like 1 foot out, like right off the back of it, like basically scooting down. And you know, these are good riders. These are like really good mountain bikers. So I'm pretty sure some of them hadn't looked at it. They were just like, oh, I'm going to go do it. I think most marathon races, though, don't have crazy downhills in them. So you don't expect it. Like, maybe there'll be 1 or 2 spots, but not like every spot. So stage 3, I knew that the start was really important. I didn't want to say this, by the way, actually, because this is the first bit I wanted to talk to you about specifically, which was I knew that there wasn't much tarmac between the start and the trail, right? And the trail the climb is quite hard to move up on. It's not like
it's not wide. Well, it's wide, but if you go if you go wide, you just exaggerate yourself significantly more than you would if you just follow that line.
And it's hard to keep momentum because it's pretty steep. So if you get stuck behind someone, it's really hard to come round. It's hard to accelerate. You know, it's a hard climb. It's one you want to be able to set your own pace. And it's narrow. You know, we had the start with the road that went up to the main road, and then basically it was just narrow.
Yeah.
So I knew that it was like where we got gridded. I thought I was going to be gridded in the front bit anyway, because in the thing it said top 15. But then when we got put back, I was like, oh, we've got to do everything to get, you know, as soon as they lift the ribbon to like bring everyone forward, it was just like starting to, excuse me, out of the way. I wasn't saying that, but you know, it was like push my way as far forward as you can. And then as soon as it gets out of the park,
through those gates, which like were stupid in my opinion.
Sprint. It was like basically a full sprint up the road. Like that was the hardest I went all week. Like, that was 2-3 minutes, just not looking down, just like I'm going past everyone to get into the front group. And I wanted to tell you at the time, like, follow me, come with me, just like stand next to me and we'll bash our way through, because that's the key. Like if you don't, you know, once you're back, then you get stuck in the traffic, you lose time on the climb, you get stuck in the traffic, you lose time on the next climb, and you get stuck in traffic again. And then you're like 10 minutes behind, when really, like, all you had to do was give maybe 5 minutes of extra effort at the beginning, and you would have probably been 5 minutes behind, not 10 minutes behind. And even then, you would have had confidence to be like, I'm with a faster group, I'm descending well. And I reckon you'd have been 10 minutes quicker overall.
Yeah, that was kind of a disappointing thing on the stage 3, is that while I knew that there is some like top 10 or top 15 being invited to the gates, somehow in my mind I thought that once that is finished, everyone else will be invited afterwards. That was my initial thought. But I've been standing in that arrangement of the gates. And then I realized that, nope, that's not going to happen. And by the time I went into the gate, it was like I've been standing quite far away. And on the first, well, through those gates, I also have reel in my Instagram where it was 50 seconds just to, from the whistle to go through the gates in order to be able to sprint. And that's annoying thing through multiple degrees, is that first they create the bottleneck through the gates without, like, there's no good reason to create that bottleneck because the start place in that specific area was not the best in my opinion, because they also blocked the left side. We go through those metal gates and there were yellow blocks on the left, which reduces the space even further. So that was like, I don't know why they did that, but apart from that, on that climb, that first up to the roundabout, I had 40 seconds, 600 plus watts, so I've been pushing really hard there for my effort. And then I felt that I might catch the group, but once we go down and we went again up, I've been toasted. Like, I already knew that, even though it sounds funny, it was just one good effort, but that good effort was pretty much all I had for the day. And then I just settled down and continued going with the whole group. And on the climb was exactly like you described it. So there is pretty much one line which you can go. The climb is Wilson, the one we are talking here. And if you go off that, you are already adding 300 watts plus in order if you want to overtake anyone. So it was like, all right, I will be as slow or as hard as I can on that and don't exaggerate too much. And once we hit the top of the climb, I knew that that single track is awaiting, so La Ruina and Aihuahuala. And I overtook quite a lot of guys. They overtook me back, and I'm like, okay, so I will leave the space. I won't try to catch them back. I will allow them to go first. If they are that fast, maybe they will also fasten downhill. And that was bad choice, because we've been standing in the queues. In total, I don't remember now, but we lost maybe 3 minutes on that descent, just standing. And then I was so angry, so so disappointed, shall we say. But that was time lost and you can't do anything about it. That's the reason why doing recons is like, in such race, it's not necessarily going to help you in the grand scheme of things of result, but you can just more confidently go down. And I also thought that maybe you, me, some others just overthink the importance of recons. But at the same time, if we look at top 5, top 10 guys from Elite, they've been doing those trails multiple times in the past, participated in those races, and now they came here a week ago before the race, and they still redone those trails because they know the importance of it.
Yeah, like if you watch, take for example downhill, like the World Cup downhill riders and those races, they have 3 days of track walking.
Yeah.
Where they don't even ride. They're just like, they turn up, they have a day of walking the track and like making notes, and they're not riding their bike, they're just looking at the track. Then they have like 3 days of practice, which is, building up the pace all the time. Like, it's dangerous. It's a dangerous sport. Going down these descents is like, it is dangerous.
You have to know the lines which you go to take.
Without looking it made the biggest difference. I mean, for me, it made the biggest difference. Being able to do those recons together made the biggest difference because it gave me the confidence to know what was coming up so that I could follow the guy in front of me that was quicker, but I wasn't like waiting to crash. Because I knew what was coming up, and when I knew that there was something really technical coming up, I would just back off and it would give me the time then to watch them go down it and me decide whether I want to try it or whether I'm just going to jump straight off.
Yeah, exactly.
And almost every time I rode, but there was that one moment which was the second descent. So the second descent on day 3, which takes you down to Contador's house.
On the right.
And there's the exit of it. There's there's a switchback, and then it comes back on yourself, and then it goes down to the road, and there's like a big drop, and then there's like lots of ruts. And I knew I'm not going to even attempt it.
But you did or not?
No. I jumped off really early, so there was almost a queue. People were really slowing down for it, and actually because I jumped off early and just ran, I overtook people.
But you know what happened? There's one thing happened in that place. They cleaned it. Because then we did the recon, we kind of had two choices, 2 lines. One just go very wide and then try to turn, other go through the rocks. And on the race day, before the race day, someone came there and prepared the hour line, which was even earlier. I didn't understood that during the race, that it was someone fixed it, and it was very easy to turn there, and it's nothing to compare what we did in the recons. So that was interesting that apparently someone did that. And that also, the same happened on the stage 3 towards the end where we had to cross the river. Then we did the recon. It was impossible, it was really impossible, but someone digged it, and it was you just roll it, and that's pretty much it. And how was the descent after Contador's house for you? So one immediately after.
So I was behind at that point. I ended up riding a lot of the early stages with the 2 guys that won the pairs category, who are actually British as well.
British, I saw it.
I was behind them, and I'm not sure if they've reconned them or not, but they're really good. I know who they are. They're both very, very good mountain bikers. I wouldn't in a million years think I'd be able to keep up with them on the descents. So I was absolutely buzzing down this thing, knowing, hey, I'm with these guys. I'm not being dropped. And then we came out of that descent. It's quite rocky, but I've done it a few times, so I knew where I was going, and it was fine. I came out, and then one of the guys came back, and he was like, "You did that on a hardtail?" And I was just in my head, I was like, "Oh, Oh,
No, I just finished the trail and removed the shock and put it in my back pocket.
yeah. But I was like so proud that someone that good was like, oh, good job, man.
Yeah,
I was just like, yes.
That's actually really amazing on its own that you managed to do it on the hardtail. So, well, whether you successfully did it or not, we don't know because we're still stage 4 waiting. But I want to say one thing about that descent, which you just talked about. So on that one, a moment before entering the trail, I noticed who was in front, and that was one lady from Spanish rider. And I was like 200 meters away from the trail. I noticed that she's further in front, and I'm like, I'm fucked. I mean, I already know that I don't have enough time to overtake her, and then I know what the trail is incoming, and I already knew what's going to happen, but I managed to close the gap as close as possible to her, and I said that, may you allow me to go in front on your right? And at the moment I tried to turn, I noticed that there is photographer's gear on the ground, which was not very good place to put your flashlight or whatever it was on the ground, so I braked a bit. And then I tried like another time, just turning into a right, and we are almost in parallel, and she said, no, 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 and she went in front. And that was, for 1 minute, I been behind her. One funny thing about it, which I will talk soon, but basically she didn't allow me to overtake her, but then on one place she just stepped off the bike, and I managed to cross it. She said something to me, which you can find out in the onboard. And I was a bit angry, but I just continued going. However, exactly the same situation happened in 2024, which was, I knew that in stage 3, there was one lady, which bib number was 102. So if you want to check results from 2024, you can do that. In the trail, there was one lady who was blocking everyone like crazy. The queue was building up, everyone was angry, shouting, allow us to go, and she was walking without riding on the bike. Like the bike is aside, and she just walking down the trail, and she blocked everyone and didn't allow us to overtake. So that was the same lady, apparently. 1 year after, nothing has changed much, but that just shows from one degree, that's fine, you can be slower, etc. But from the other, if that's your second year in the same race and you are not improving your skills and you are behaving same way, not much what I can add, but she was very good climber. I don't know.
Like if you end up keeping people behind you on the descents, I found it, because without like drawing too many parallels, but I was, in a way, I was her in my race. Like, I was significantly slower than the people I was around on the descents. And so I actually hated it when people were behind me.
Yes, exactly. You feel stressed.
I'm thinking about them rather than like what's happening in front of me, and I'll make mistakes. So basically, as soon as anyone came up behind me, I would just let them pass as soon as I could, because I was only going to crash if I tried to keep them.
And you're also winning by allowing fasters to go in front, because you can at least try to follow them, and maybe you will see one line which you didn't even expect it to see. So that's like kind of beneficial thing. Didn't happen with her. And later in the day, she overtook me on the longest climb again. So it was like I was going under 300 watts on that climb, which is really low, but I didn't felt like it, and she overtook me. And there was 2 more downhills, very similar type of, and I'm seeing again that I'm closing the gap. And based on our past experience, I just didn't say anything, I just waited. And the funny thing is that, remember the switchback which we tried a lot of times? Like, I tried to go very wide on the right and turn, and it was like very sketchy. But because it was wet already in that place on the stage 3, because on stage 2 it was raining. significantly. So I even informed her that there's very technical switchback to the left. So in order for her not to hurt herself, because if she turns there, she might get injured or whatever. And then I just cut the switchback and continue riding. How that trail was for you? Because for me, the second part, actually, after that switchback, it was very moisture. And for me, it was like very thin line between I'm on the bike and I'm on the ground.
Okay, yeah. I think for me, that trail was like the biggest, I want to say, achievement of the whole week, right? There was something that clicked that day. I think it was because of the confidence I had from the first two descents. And to put it in perspective, that day I thought I was going to lose loads of time in that section. Like, we talked about it on the recons. I was like, I'm basically just going to go backwards here. Like, I'm going to really struggle because it was so bumpy. It was so rocky. Like, it was horrible. Like, I couldn't even ride down it in the recon all in one go. I had to keep stopping and like shaking my hands out, shaking my feet out. But something clicked in that I just went so much quicker. I wasn't hitting the rocks. I was like
flying
I wasn't
over
able to skip over them. And when I looked at the times, so you did it in 10 minutes 20, the whole thing. I did it in 11 minutes. I only lost 40 seconds.
So that's very minor.
Yeah, and the guys on the podium did it in 9 minutes. So it's like, where I thought I would lose, I don't know, 15 minutes, like 5 minutes maybe, I only lost a minute. Like, it was pretty good.
I will try.
And I actually liked the bottom bit where it was a little bit wet, because that's the sort of conditions I'm used to riding.
So that's where riding in Wales becomes beneficial.
But where I struggled on stage 3 was the technical climbing. That's where I struggled. I lost a lot of time then after that big descent, where it then started becoming, there was lots of technical single track. Like, there was a bit through the woods where there was all those little step ups. And then there was like a few technical climbs. I lost a lot of time. That's why I lost most of the time.
So that one was
after
here.
Yeah, all that bit, all basically from 20 miles to 25 miles. It was a lot of technical single track, and you can see I lost a lot of time.
Not that much, only 2 minutes.
But it was the most significant loss of time on the whole course.
Yeah. And you also lost here. Here it was that stony technical climb here, which was painful.
It was painful, and I think I was in a little group at that point, and I think everyone struggled that I was with, because everyone was like constantly unclipping, which was then causing everyone else to unclip.
It's funny because actually on the second, not on the second, on the third and fourth stage, because it was a bit moisture and a bit wet stones, those technical climbs became very hard, because even though I know that on recons, well, it wasn't that high heart rate, etc., and I wasn't that tired, I knew that I can do it, but on the race day it was just, I can't, and that's pretty much it. The rear tire just slips on the stone, you lose momentum, and you are not able to jump on the next step, and that was pretty much how the race was lost. So here
did you take that? There was on that final technical climb, which is at like 22 miles, a bit further. Yeah, that bit there. Did you take, there was like the cheeky line that we found on the recon, do you remember?
Yeah, no, I haven't saw the place where to enter, and I continue bumping myself up. If you are talking about that technical climb. Yeah. And there was like, you could basically jump over the bank and then get onto like a nice smooth path for like 100, 150 meters. And what I remembered one other thing, somewhere here where you are now at,
Yeah.
there was concrete, like V-shaped concrete. Probably there is some tube on the bottom, and it just filled on top with concrete. Were you able to ride that one or not?
No, again, like I just knew it was coming up, so I jumped off early.
Because the guy in front of me not fell, but unclipped, and I tried to go there, but he was not able to move away fast enough, and I felt then, and he was just trying to help me up. So it was sometimes when you know that something technical and hard to do is approaching, if someone is in front, probably just easier to unclip and walk.
I'd say so.
Because it just adds complexity and not necessarily, even though you would be able or should be able, you will do it. So I kind of was a bit disappointed by the ending of the stage 3 because it was Queen stage, but pretty much the ending was tarmac with some gravel road. So like, from this, once we hit Benissa, I think that it was quite blunt, and considering that in, I guess, this place, if I'm not mistaken, there are so good switchbacks. I mean, so good that you have to go off the bike. So if they were to add those in this stage, I think it would have been amazing through the sense of hardness.
I think originally they did, because the first route I made from the map that they shared back in November definitely had this really crazy trail to finish on. But I'm really glad they took it out because it was terrifying.
And what was the results of stage 3? What's your take about the numbers?
I thought it was about what I expected. I mean, I thought you would come past me. So I was expecting you to come past me on the middle section somewhere, probably on those, that single track
steps
that kept going up. That's in my head where you were going to come past. And then I was like going to try and hold on to you
until the faster sections.
And then it was like whether you kind of would gap me on the technical climb, and then maybe I would be able to bring it back and catch back up. So I was pretty surprised that when I finished, my dad said that you were like 5 minutes. Yeah,
behind. So the day was probably decided in that first part, in the queues. Definitely. On the single track, because one thing also to mention is that, so I finished 18th and you've been 15th, with you half an hour from the leader of M30, and I'm 34 minutes, where the leaders of leaders finished it in 2 hours 49. So it's like, but those guys, pros, they are actually currently already finished Med Epic, and I believe that they were in top 10 for certain. I saw that
they were top 5, weren't they, overall? Like, all the guys on the podium were all in the top 5, I think.
All the days we were in top 10 for certain. So that kind of defines how well they've been prepared. And what I wanted to mention, so the most important thing is that you lose 10 seconds or 20 seconds going after someone in the single track is not that big of a deal when you look at it only from time lost perspective. But then we look at it from time lost from the group in front perspective. That means you don't have anyone to tow you. You are coming from the trail alone, and then you have, like, I don't know, maybe in 10 minutes or so I managed to catch someone who was in front, so that's kind of effort wasted as well, in a sense. So those 10-20 seconds lost on the trail then backfire at you, and like snowball effect continues rolling and you are just losing more and more time. So that being said, I was not sleeping really well before the stage 4 because it was raining all the evening, most of the night, and I was during the night awake and thinking like, I don't have any spare tire to put on my bike, because going with Pirellis in those muddy, I didn't even expect it, how muddy it's going to be. You had Ardent race or something like that, but you haven't changed it.
I didn't change it because I just was like, I don't know, I couldn't be bothered. I was too tired.
Yeah. And at the same time, risking to put some tire which you're not aware of is not the best idea as well.
And I was just like, you know, how bad will it be? When it rained a bit on day 2, which made day 3, actually, I found that the trails had more grip. Like, there was actually, it was more fun to ride them. So I was like, maybe it won't be too muddy. It might be okay. But yeah, and also, I mean, I wasn't nervous because I always liked racing in the rain because everyone else gets nervous.
Yeah.
So if you tell yourself that the rain's great because half the field are already out of it. And it's funny because that was almost my saying, oh, half the field don't turn up when it rains. And what happened? Half the field didn't even
show it up. So that kind of says...
So I was actually quite fired up for it. And I don't know whether you noticed, but like on the start line, I didn't want to chat. I was just like, I'm here, like, I'm going to do well today. Yeah, I don't care what anyone else is doing. Like, this is good. I like this. Let's get on with it. Like, let's go.
And actually on the start, you was successful to go quite significant in front on that gates arrangement once again. Are we been always late to the start of a gate, or how that happened that we always appeared behind M40? We're in the list.
I think we were late. Yeah.
We were late to the gate.
Yeah, I think so. But again, like, I found that it didn't matter because guys that were essentially back there were not as fired up. So you could just push your way through and they would let you go through. Whereas I think if you started getting further forward, guys would like get their elbow out and go like, no, you're not coming through. So I would just push until someone went, no. And then I'd go, okay. And then as soon as I saw my opportunity, I'd nip it past again.
But the fact that once you go through the gates into the race and you can overtake those slower guys easily, relatively easily, that kind of backfired at me. And that's how I got my crash. So
I saw that. I watched the footage of that crash, right? And
what's your take on the topic? Because it's interesting how you see it.
I think the guy in front of you just didn't know you were there, and he just sort of swung in front. And then, to me, it looked like a big gap. Like, I'd have gone for that gap.
You would have went through that?
Yeah. I'd have gone to ride through that gap. And the guy just, like, pulled left on you. But I think you should have just maybe let them know that you were there. So, and I would always shout, like, because also when you shout loudly, someone will...
But they can move to both directions. You don't know which directions they are going to move. And that was kind of a sandwich, hamburger sandwich, where one was from one side, other was from the other.
To me, it just looked like the guy on the right closed up on you. The guy on the left didn't really seem to do anything.
But that's exactly the opposite which happened. So I've been in the center, the guy on the right been coasting downhill without pedaling. Like, when you see that happens in 600 meters from the start, you know that it's not the good guy to ride around. So I just kept pedaling, and most of the time I'm been adding 200, 300 watts going through that gap. And then all of a sudden, the guy which was on the left close to the right without any purpose. Like, he didn't have any other rider in front. It was just a purposeful move to the side. But he did it at the time when we were parallel already. So maybe he was just looking elsewhere, I don't know why. But the one on the left hit my handlebars. Maybe with a hip, I don't know. Probably with his handlebars as well. And then my handlebars been touched. and
Yeah.
the other on the right also at that time moved to the left. So I was just squeezed in between, and the handlebars just started shaking, and because I had no leverage to move to the right, it just flew me, and that was
Yeah.
like sliding on the tarmac on left side for 2 seconds. Like I was feeling that my flesh is getting opened, so it was
You're
not.
lucky that it was wet though.
Yeah, because otherwise it would be burning meat,
Yeah, you
heat
would
meat
take a lot
burning.
more skin off.
Yeah, and what
But again,
happened?
Your mistake was being not aggressive enough at the start. Like,
But I kind of, well, before the start, maybe that would be
yeah,
the same.
because we went in the gate together.
Yeah.
We actually went in together, and then
And you were
Right.
at the side, like
I
at
must have
the
been
right.
At the time the gun went, I must have been 40 riders ahead of you.
Yeah, that was kind of the issue which I did. Then it was kind of hard to
Yeah.
back up again on the bike, and I got up. I just continued riding the handle. The levers on the right side were off, so while putting 300 watts, I took out the multi-tool, adjusted while riding the lever, so it was funny. I've been focusing very much on the fact that we are going on the climb, there will be single track, I have to be as much as possible in front, where in reality those single tracks were unrideable. We were just absolutely unrideable. Everyone was walking, and compared to times on the segments, we've been standing there for 4 minutes. So just standing without riding, waiting for others to walk, because there was it was not possible to walk fast there.
Yeah.
It was slippery, etc. So yeah, that was not what I have expected from that stage.
Yeah. And were you already starting a bit like bummed out? Because I think after stage 3, you didn't seem that, like, you seemed in a good mood. But after stage 1, I got the sense that you were a bit disappointed.
That was true. The reason being why I was kind of a bit disappointed is twofold. One, I wasn't putting that much watts that I expected to put, and especially on the climbs, you can see that I'm not performing the way I might expect it to. That was one thing. And the other is quite funny, is that because last year I finished in top 10, this year I thought that because I improved my climbing a bit on the technical areas, I also expected that I might go down faster, because even though through the times I've been pretty much similar, I felt more confident while going down. And that kind of makes a difference when you go into the confidence mode and then you just try to survive. It opened my eyes that last year's result was more or less not because I was very good, just the guys who participated were not that strong. And that kind of showcases by the result as well that the top 10 was significantly closer gaps than last year it was. So this year, more stronger guys participated
Yeah.
that kind of mixed the feelings a bit. On the stage 4, I still wanted to go as fast as possible on the climb, just to go into the trails, and then we will see how things goes, but it was not possible. And then those 2 holes on my left leg, going through those bushes, etc. It was like scrubbing all the time, and I was swearing quite a lot during that stage. Interesting thing is that I decided to start with hand warmers, and that kind of helped my left hand, because I was sliding on the tarmac with my left elbow. So I have here quite a huge hole as well, but it saved me, because without it, I mean, it would be just nasty stuff. And actually, 1 week after, I still have a massive hole in my hip, where here is not very easy to go with shorts only, but I tried at home to be with shorts, to have that open area so it could just dry out. But it's like, I mean, it's kind of minor, but it's annoying, and it takes time to heal. I try to go riding a bit as well. Then the leg bends it just causes friction, and it's like, What else was nasty on the stage 4? Nasty was the muddy trails, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, it was so slick on the. It was just. I mean, it must have been worse further back you went because it was the mud being put onto the rocks that then just made it
Distributed along.
The first bit was fine. The first third of the race was okay. It was then when you got into like the shadow side of the mountain that it was like the mud was crazy. Like, you know, that trail that we were like, oh, this is a flow trail.
Yeah, it was
that
flow.
Was it was flowy in that you just like slid on the mud.
Sliding, yeah. Basically, you could go faster if you put some bag under your butt and just skid over.
Yeah. And by that point, I was getting so frustrated. Like, you know, you say you were swearing a lot. I was swearing a lot too, just because it was like just so frustrating, always having to unclip. And then like the mud was like filling the cleat, so then you couldn't clip in again because your shoe was too full of mud. That was frustrating. And then there was that crazy river that we had to go through. But that was actually quite good because it cleaned the bike a bit. But then once we got through that bit, it then seemed to dry up again. So it was just that middle part of the track. The middle part of the track was I didn't enjoy, but then the first section and the last section I did. So I was looking at like my heart rate for the 3 stages, the 3 proper stages, and my heart rate for stage 4 was like 10 beats lower than 3 and 1, even though I finished much higher in the group.
But it's very much expected. At least what I usually notice in stage races is that every single day your heart rate goes down, and it's kind of the norm because you build fatigue.
Normally I'd expect to see it go down like your maximum heart rate, but like your average heart rate would normally stay the same if the level of effort is the same.
Really? Because I never see that this way. It's always like average goes down, max heart rate goes down. In some races, I even noticed like in 4th day of racing, my max can be 15 beats lower than I accumulated on the first day. So that's what I noticed. Maybe it's mental, and I stop pushing it on the last days because that's last day. I'm tired already. That can be true as well.
But I did finish the last day like not that tired. You know, day 1 I was like broken. I was like absolutely broken. Day 1, day 3 I was like tired, and I woke up on day 4 like tired. But then day 4, once we'd finished, I was like, I feel okay. Like, I obviously haven't gone super deep because.
So you could have gone. You could have gone another loop.
I think so, but because it was so much of it was walking.
Maybe, but I kind of tried some sections still to keep on the bike, and especially on that long rocky climb, which was through the hiking path. And you know, when through the cons, I did that with minor amounts of touching the ground.
Yeah, you did.
It was just impossible. Like, probably because some were humid, there was also more fatigue buildup, and it was just very nasty walking and all that stuff. And we kind of saw quite a few lines in that top part when you go down. There was still a bit of a climb left, but on the descents we spotted quite few good lines. I didn't even try them because the rocks were slippery, and we even been walking sections before that. So it was just impossible to.
I basically ran that whole descent. I pretty much ran the whole thing. And you know where I was saying there was that line where I was like, oh, you could come here, like the shortcut. Remember? There was there were guys watching and taking photos there, and I just ran straight through the middle of them. I was like, out of the way, I'm going down this way.
I know the shortcut.
Yeah, I know the shortcut. I'm going down. And actually, when I looked at the descent, my times weren't that much slower than anyone else's. And I think it's just because I was just like, I'll just run the whole thing.
Yeah, you didn't waste time going on the bike, going off the bike, and it's just time waster big time, because on that hiking trail there were times when I'm close to a guy and I'm stubbornly trying to go on the bike and continue going, and the gap just increases in my sight. Like you can see the guy just disappearing in the horizon. So it's something to learn for me sometimes, to just swallow it and walk it, rather than stubbornly trying, but just eventually losing even more time.
Oh, I don't. And so on stage 4, I actually had the most fun, which was after the final bits of descending, the final bits of single track, that were like, they're not super technical. They're just like good, fun single track coming back down into Cal. That was, for me, the best fun of the week, because it was just wet enough that there was grip. So you didn't just like, it wasn't super loose.
Yeah.
And I was with the group that were pretty good. You're the Estonian lady.
Merili.
Yeah, she was there, and man, she can descend. Like, we were dropping her on the climbs, and then she'd like catch back on the descents. Like, and that to me felt the fastest I went up downhill all week. And she was like closing a gap, no problem. And then we come into this one bit where it's like, there's a little shoot down and then a really steep shoot up. The guys went round it and up, and she just boom hit this thing. And so I was like, oh,
you followed from.
I was just catapulted in the air, like off a donkey or something, just like head over heels into the bush.
But you flew over that?
Yeah, literally the whole, like, the bike. I just let go of the bike because I was in the air. Like, and
actually,
just like,
I checked that area one day before the stage, maybe before the race, and I didn't knew whether I'm going to do it or not, because it was really steep. Like, you have to time everything perfectly, proper gear, proper time. At the right time you have to pull the wheel, because otherwise you just hit it and fly over. And it was close call for me, but there was one guy in front who I just followed, and he went the same way. So it was just a bit easier to plan how the things will go when you see someone in front.
But
so
she did it so easily. She made it look so easy.
Looking from a side, it's always that.
Yeah, I'll just follow her straight through, and then I was just like catapulted, and then I lost like a minute to that group, just like.
And actually, it's funny because I rewind. I don't know in which stage that part was last year, but that cut. That shortcut was not available. I mean, it was just bushes, overgrown vegetation, etc. So someone just opened new line and new possibility.
There were lots of new lines all week that we didn't see originally, that people had opened up. But it was, some of them were good, some of them not so good.
Some of them were risky, others were time gainers for certain.
Yeah.
How in the end you are happy about your end result, because you finished 8th in GC?
Yeah.
So did you expect such result, or how did you see it?
No. I remember we had a conversation the first time we met, do you remember? And I said like, oh, do you have an ambition for the race? And you said, oh, you finished in the top 10. And then and you asked me if I had one, I was just like, I just want to finish, basically. Because if I finish, then I will beat last year, and that's all I care about. Like, can I finish every day without crashing? Can I finish every day, like, having ridden as hard as I can? Which I did. And in my head, I had sort of said, maybe I could get a top 10, but that was based on the field last year. And the field this year was so much stronger that after day one, I was like, oh, there's no way that top 10 is possible.
Yeah, but
so 8 was pretty good, but I do think it was because 3 or 4 of the guys didn't turn up. That's
exactly what I wanted to say, is that your performance was amazing compared to what you have expected. So I think that you did an amazing job, and at the same time I know at least 2 guys who were above us who didn't show up. Maybe were even more, I haven't checked, but I know 2 for certain. It's per category after 4 stages. And you can see that there is no guy who finished first here. There is no guy who finished first here. Here, this one finished first. So there was Amadeo Ferrero or something like that, who was a Spanish guy who was first after a few stages. But he just didn't show up for I don't know what reasons.
He had a crash on stage 3.
Really?
Yeah, he had a crash and I think broke his bike.
I didn't know that. Nonetheless, top 10 for Jake Hollins from Great Britain. Congratulations. And does that mean that Costa Blanca back-to-back participation is over and we won't see the guy from Top Cycling in 2026?
So when I crossed the line on Sunday, the first thing I thought was, yes, I never have to do this again. But then on the drive home, obviously I was thinking about, okay, what races do I want to do? Like, that was great. I really liked it. I want to do more racing. I want to try a new thing, but I think I could get a podium. It's like, I want to get a podium there now. So maybe I'll go back next year. I really want to do the Mediterranean Epic. So if there's a bit of a bigger gap, then I will probably do it. But if it's 2 or 3 days again, then probably not next year.
But you know what's also interesting is that Mediterranean Epic, there's also some technical sections, I guess, while not that much as in this one. So the logic would also tell that it may be better to go there and do recons rather than go to here, and because you kind of already know what to expect, etc. But on the other hand, that race might be not that technical and it might not even require doing those recons, so it's like hard to tell which way to go. But at the same time, looking at the guys who participated in Calpe and then went to Med Epic, it seems that they don't care about recons there. Well, majority of those, they just go there, they are just that good, they can just fly, and that's pretty much it.
I need the recons.
Yeah, recons builds confidence, and confidence builds skills, and or some way around.
Yeah, I agree. So I think I wouldn't write off that I'll never come back, but I definitely am going to come back to
ride
and ride. Whether I'll do the race, I don't know. But I mean, it's such good. The riding's so incredible, and I haven't been able to do it yet, but I can't wait to go out back here now and back home and see
where you can improve your com results.
See what the trails feel like, because there's not the same element of death.
So just to add about this is that last year when I returned from Spain to my homeland in Lithuania, everything seemed flat. And by flat, I mean I come to the descent, which in the past seemed like I'm not too comfy to do that. You just roll for it. That's pretty much. You basically release your hands, scratch your head, take the bottle, and just roll. Absolutely. Of course, over time, that smooths out a bit, and you are not feeling that confident, but it just takes 1 week to go, well, not 1 week, 3 days to go somewhere where it's technical, and it just refreshes. So that's a very good thing, and I think that Costa Blanca Bike Race in general builds a lot of skills which you can transfer to other racing environments, etc. So that's good.
Yeah, I agree. And it's there's a time trial. But the 3 big days, that's 3 big long days that you're riding hard. Like, that's going to have a good positive effect on your fitness for the rest of the season as well. Sorry. And like how physically demanding the race is as well. Like, that will have a good impact on your fitness. So, like you say, there's not many other races that are that physically challenging in terms of the bumps, the bangs, and so doing an hour's XCO race now, even if it's rocky, it's still like, oh, it's nothing. It's not 3 hours of doing it for 4 days in a row.
Since you are into training, I wonder, what do you think about coming to such races without base kilometers in your luggage and just hitting those race stages? How good or bad it is?
Yeah, I think you would do yourself a disservice, because you need some fitness, because it's 3 hours every day, and your body is being battered for those 3 hours. So you need endurance in your muscles to be able to get the most out of yourself. Otherwise, you get out the first 2 climbs and then you're fucked, and then the rest of the day is just like
struggling without a good reason.
And you don't really get to like push your limit on the descents or push your limit like physically, because you're just hanging on to whatever you can do.
So it's not the best idea to. You need some base in order to go doing such races, not just straight from the sofa. And what would you recommend those who go straight from the sofa and want to participate in such race? Easy going, right?
Yeah. I mean, take it from me, I did it last year having no experience whatsoever and didn't know what to expect, and it ended with a broken hand. So it's not an easy race. Like, it's the same with anything. Mountain biking is dangerous and should be treated with respect. And when you don't, the trail teaches you a lesson.
But actually, it's very funny. This year, before the race, I crashed 2 times. And all of those crashes were in the places where, I already went through the most technical bits, and here I'm just rolling, and all of a sudden I'm flying over. And those kind of also affected my some sort of confidence during the descents, because sometimes I catched myself where I try to make sure that my pedals do not hit anything, where in the past I just natively done it without even thinking. And here few times I really knew that, oh fuck, something is there, I have to put my pedals in the other position, and that kind of affected my descending a bit on the races. Because those crashes, actually, just to add one more thing, those crashes, even though were minor, but they showed to me that mistakes are unforgiven here. And you just fall once, you hit your hand into the rock, and you're already looking whether the bone is out or not. Or I hit my both knees, and I thought at that time when I hit my both knees, I thought that there might be no start for me this year. So that was type of thoughts, because it felt really bad. But thankfully nothing serious happened. But it's hard. It's hard for your body if you fall, and if you fall, no good things going to happen.
I wanted to talk to you about that actually, because I'm watching some of the race footage back. It does look like your line choice does look overly cautious. So I made some notes about stuff like.
Oh, it's interesting.
As if I was your coach. And we've kind of touched on one, which was like, you just got to be more aggressive at the start. Like, I think day one, you fucked it by being too kind of passive and got too far behind, and that kind of then had this like spiral every day. I think if you'd have finished 5 minutes further up the road on day one, you'd have had more confidence every day. So I think, and that's just a mindset thing. That's nothing else. That's literally just be more aggressive.
Yeah, but at the same time, if you don't feel it, like you don't feel that you can push harder, that also adds a bit like.
It's not. It's not necessarily.
It can be mental.
Yeah, it's like being fired up at the start. And it was just a little thing. Like we were both late technically to the start. we both went through at the same point.
Yeah.
But I managed to get 10 rows ahead of you just by pushing people out of the way.
I can tell you that how why I don't do that. At certain point, I'm just pissed off by the situation, and that probably blocks me from doing anything else. Like,
Yeah.
I swallow it, and I'm like, all right, if it's that, I will push more at the start, where actually just you can already push more before the start even happens if you change the mindset. But if you don't, then you just suck, and you have to swallow that even further.
But you've always got to have your brain ready to race. Like, there's always a solution to the problem, right?
Yeah.
You should never just take it. So, like, if there was no one watching, I would take my bike, put it over the fence, walk to the front, and get back on. Like, if no one was watching, that's what I do. And so you can kind of do that anyway, just by, like, get to the edge, push people out of the way, you know, and people will move. But
I can actually admit that I never, or most of the time, I try to avoid those behaviors. But the more I race, I understand that if you want something, you have to go and get for it. And
exactly, yeah.
good guys finish last. Good guys finish last, to be honest. So sorry to say that, but it's true.
You can be polite. You can be polite and be like, have good sportsmanship. It's not again, you know, you're not doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you just got to be like, you play within the rules sort of thing and push them a little bit, I guess. I don't know. That was one thing. Then, the other thing was, I think, watching, because I seen you crash a few times, like you crashed that time with me. And I can't really remember your lines before that, but I do remember then sometimes it did seem like you were overly cautious on choosing lines because you didn't want to get clipped by the bushes. You didn't want to touch the rock. And then watching some of the footage back, it is like, sometimes it's like, why are you going over there? Like, just straight. Yeah, you've lost 10 seconds making the turn, and probably another 10 seconds from losing speed.
Yeah, exactly.
Going in a straight line has. And you know, it's like, you're a good enough descender. It's just like, I think your brain overdid it.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And even now, after the race, because I crashed, even though it was on the tarmac, it was still a crash. And I'm riding here in the trails, and it feels like I could go faster, but something in the brains says that, boy, if you go again down, you'll be like that hole in your leg, it will increase 2 times, so you should be careful. And even though I kind of didn't have like terminal injuries going in the race, it still followed me from the back in some way.
Yeah, but then to flip that on its head, when the lines that you take, so clearly your strength is technical descending, going up,
climbing.
Technical climbs. Like, you know, you are watching your videos, riding with you, and then looking at the times of the fastest guys. Like, you're not much, you know, it's
but
you're as good as they are.
That's funny is that during the race, when I got tired, like I said, I went like a horse, and it really felt in the legs as well, because in the past I could do the same section easier, like not with so much effort, while in the race it felt like I'm adding twice effort but not getting like the same result. So that was also daunting, but probably it's all the things, fatigue,
and it was slippery.
Slippery also added.
Often your lines climbing are pretty good. Like, you'll go through, like, you choose lines when you're climbing that really technical stuff. They're like clever lines.
You have to do that, because otherwise you will get stopped by some of those steps, you know.
Yeah, so it's like, you know, you just need to take that to the descending.
You know, if you fall on the technical climb, you won't hurt yourself down, but if you fall on 3 or 4 times faster speeds going down, similar one, the result will be different, but that's what you have to shut down in your head.
You're not going to fall. Like, you know, you did some of those crazy lines when we were doing the recons, fine. You just, like, but yeah, the crashing is going to affect the confidence. So I think you just got to find that confidence back, and your descending is going to be back to where it was. But then the other thing I was going to ask was, when I don't think you did any intervals in the time that I knew you.
During the training here, like the time? No. So
you just seem to do riding all the time.
Yeah.
And you've clearly got like good fitness because you ride a lot, and you're doing these races, and like day one you finished and you looked fresh. Like you finished, you looked okay. I didn't finish, I was done. And you've obviously got good power because you do the technical climbs, which require like sustained high power for 3-4 minutes. So it's obviously in there, but I think you need to like do some. Basically, I think you need to do less just like mountain biking,
riding stuff,
and more some like structured intervals that will help, like especially like the beginning, that first 10-minute climb, because you're capable of doing, you know, sustained 10-minute efforts. You would be much stronger. So where you said like day 3 you started hard, you did 600 watts for the first few minutes, but then you were empty. You need to like train your body to be able to do, you know, 500 watts for 5 minutes.
Yeah,
you could do that because you're a big guy, you've got a lot of power, you've got a lot of muscle mass, so you can do it. You've got the engine because you're doing these races that are 3 hours long. It just like, you just need to like focus some intervals, I think.
Yeah.
And that would make a big difference.
That's the great take, because coming to this race I haven't done any structured training, because in Lithuania I've been riding just in the winter as much as I could, up to 2 hours, and it was just casual riding, endurance type of. And once I came here, majority of the time I also just built further endurance, and then doing recons, which also most of the time added bits to that. So I look at this Costa Blanca Bike Race as the initial start of a season, which at least for now I haven't came prepared through the training perspective. The way I see it, probably in December I should already start doing some structural training. Our screen recording will be stopped, but I'm still recording with camera. I still have the mic, so all is good. We can conclude the things which we've been talking, but yeah, so structural training absolutely worth doing before any start. Actually, that was one of the reasons why last year I was skeptical coming to this race, because I basically haven't done any training as well, just building some endurance, and that's pretty much it. But last year it was different because I didn't know what I'm expecting here to find. So I just came here and rode. This year the same didn't resulted in the same good effort, but I kind of also have one guess, is that because last year I had like a lot of starts, very long season, I might accumulated fatigue too much, that I haven't been able to recover from it in the long term. Even though the season finished like in October or something, but I still kept riding. I kept doing those kilometers without pretty much. Well, I didn't felt that I need to rest. Like, I don't want to rest. I just want to.
I think that's it. That so just in the brief period I've known you, you're the type of guy that you love riding, right?
Yeah.
You just, it's like your favorite thing. You like to go out and ride. Like, that is your thing. And so it's very difficult to not do that. And I think that has a twofold thing, right? Which is, one, you won't rest because you want to go out and ride. Like before the race, so in the week build up between us doing the recons and then the actual day one of the race, I rode maybe 5 hours in that week before total.
Yeah.
And all of it was like intervals. Like all I did was like interval work, like just maximal efforts. Like whether it's 5 minutes, I think I did like a 10-minute effort. I did like an hour long, like just smash it for an hour, and like some shorter intervals as well. So that's all I was doing, like prepping my body for like the top end, but no volume. So I was super fresh when I started the race. Whereas you did the opposite. You just seemed to ride another 20-hour week. Like,
Not 20, maybe a bit less, but yeah, and it was like low effort most of the time.
It was like very little intensity. It was just like cruising around on your bike. I'm sure it was lovely and nice.
Yeah, but
you had a
that
great time. But there's no, like, your body's like, you know, you've done this. Your body's just like always at this level of doing 15, 20 hours. And so you need like to change it to get it to do something different. And I think you should have done less in that first week, and you need to do more intensity, not even just in like the run up to the race. I think you would benefit from doing intervals regularly all the time. Because even in a race, you can never go, and actually even on the trails, you can never go as hard as you can go on a nice, smooth gravel climb or tarmac climb where you can like control the effort that you want to do. You know, you're trying to get your body to like react and respond to the training. So you make the training super specific. You know, the intensity of the interval gets a certain response from your body that you can control on the road that you can't do on a trail.
And you know, the last thing which I can add, I mean, I totally agree with what you said here. And the last thing which I can add is that those recons, I mean, what I did in the last week, I rode with Nicky as well, showing him some trails. I rode with Arturas. So I was a bit oversaturated about the whole idea of checking everything. And that also clogged my mind a bit, because I was so like trying to make sure that I know what I need to know, etc. When in reality, it's good to know, but just sometimes enough is enough. And if you try to add more on top of the enough, you are just getting oversaturated, and that kind of can backfire at you as well. So with that being said, what are your 2025 remaining season goals? Because we are still 10 months left, let's say.
Yeah, 10 months left. So, I mean, I'll plug my new business, which is so I've started like a training app, which I've developed and is now starting to get people on it, and we're trying to get it production ready. So there's a lot of work that's still to be done on that. That's kind of going to dominate my year, and that's why I was like really prepared for this race, because it was the only race I knew that yes, 100% I'm coming to do this. This is what I'm doing. So the rest of my year looks a little bit, it depends on how work goes, how the business grows, and the stuff around the business. Around, like, we're going to have a road team that's funded by the app. That's like the big ambition. So if it all starts kicking off, then I might be back on the road with the team doing stuff there. And, the mountain biking is just for me. So where that's next going to take me, I'm not 100% sure, but I'll definitely find somewhere to go.
So to add here is that you are moving your stage racing in mountain bike into 4-day stage racing in mountain bike from Costa Blanca Bike Race. You are moving into racing your business into upcoming, 1 year or so, day by day, doing those stages to make your business grow. And
pretty much. I mean, it's given me, from my own racing kind of point of view, like, I loved it, and I really do want to find the next thing. The big thing for me is I want to do the Cape Epic at some point, whether that's next year or the year after. And so that's a partner's race, and so I need to find a partner. So I want to do some pairs racing. That's like, if we could find the right race and the date worked, then it's like that's what I'd be keen to do, really.
Yeah. So with that being said, I guess that it's not the last time we see Jay Hollins on the channel.
I hope not. Yeah, I hope not. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was really good. And like I said to you over a message the other day, it was like, I know I just randomly messaged you out of the blue, and you were like, yeah, sure, let's go ride. I don't know what you thought was going to happen or who was going to turn up, but it was, to me, it was really, like, really helpful that I could ride with someone that I knew had done well the year before. And, you know, you'd obviously done a lot of stage racing on the mountain bikes. It was like, there was a comfort in doing it with you that, hey, this guy can do it. I'm not that much, like, I'm not being dropped. I'm not like, oh my God, this guy's too crazy good, like I shouldn't be riding with him. It was just really nice, and like it gave me a lot of confidence, and I definitely wouldn't have finished as high as I did if it wasn't for, you know, riding with you. So I don't know if that makes you feel annoyed that you gave one of your opponents such a big boost.
Absolutely not. It makes me feel great, actually, that in such simple ways, like just by receiving the message through Instagram, you can find someone to ride together and build relationships of some sort. So I kind of appreciate that a lot. By the fact of creating content, I gain like-minded people appears around me. So that's kind of the thing which I appreciate. Probably one of the most from all this racing thing, of part of getting to know our places, etc. I think that meeting new people is pretty much what makes it so special in the grand scheme of things as well.
Yeah, I agree. And that's what drew me to mountain biking as well, since I stopped road riding, because like this would never happen on the road. Like, if we were road cyclists, we'd never have done this. But mountain biking is a much more friendly sport. Like, it is more friendly. Everyone gets on. Like, people are chatting at the start and the finish in a way that it just doesn't happen road riding. Road, you know, if you're racing on the road, your opponents, your rival, that's it.
Want to cut your throat.
Yeah. Whereas here it's like, yeah, let's kind of go ride or hang out, and it's been really nice.
Yeah, so that being said, I don't know if our camera is still recording, but thanks a lot, Jake, for your time. I don't know what I'm going to do with all this footage. Yeah, but thanks a lot for your time. And yeah, I really appreciate you joining this, because doing race analysis alone is a bit tedious. Doing race analysis with someone is like, you can learn not only from our perspective, but you can learn something through our insights, which is really helpful, and maybe that's not the last time we're doing this together. So thanks a lot for your time.
And yeah, I'd be well up for doing it again.
Cheers, man.